Hello class, we are in week 12 and this week we will be covering chapter 13, which is theories of personality. So here is your to-do list for the week to take a look and kind of overview what we'll be working on. Let me start first with the chapter objectives. You're going to see that the chapter is basically broken down into different segments of covering various theories on personality. So personality is one of those factors that there isn't concrete, definitive explanations for why we are who we are. There's theories about what contributes to making us who we are, making our unique personalities. So this chapter really covers all of the main theorists what is for their theory on explaining personality. So it'll begin by defining personality. What is it? What are some different traditional perspectives on it? And then it jumps right into talking about, I think, one of the pioneer theories in the field, which is Freud. Freud is known for a lot of different things. Some people, when they hear of Freud, they think craziness. He had some wild ideas that were really out there. But Freud actually created the first premise to understanding personality. He was one of the first to conduct psychotherapy, which was basically sitting down with patients, clients, having them explain to him their thoughts, their feelings, sort of the traditional sit down on the couch and talk to me type of setting. And so that's how Freud got his start. But he worked with a lot of individuals who had psychoses, that had varying different mental disorders of his time. And by examining them and understanding them, he started to see different themes and different constructs pop up that were shared between people. And so he was one of the first to develop his own ideas about why we gravitate towards certain proclivities towards things or have certain reactions towards things. And so he's going to be the first that we kind of dive into in looking at personality. Once we've sort of covered him, we'll talk about how sort of the neo-Freudians or the new Freudians kind of took his theory and built off of it, adding on some more modern ideas to his theory. And then we'll start getting into some of the social learning theories of personality, and that will include some names you've heard before, like Bandura. We'll look at, how society shapes personality and how learning theories, like we talked about when we covered the chapter on learning, so operant conditioning and classical conditioning and modeling and observational learning, how all of those contribute to our personality. And then we'll move into humanistic view of personality. And here we're going to be talking about Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow and what they view as a more positive spin off of some of what Freud proposed. Freud's ideas of personality kind of got a bad rap because they were more negative. They were more focused on urges and desires and the things that we want to suppress within ourselves. And Rogers and Maslow were more focused on the good nature of the human condition, how we all strive for the best in ourselves. So it's very stark difference from Freud's theories. And then we'll get into, I think, what is really now the more modern views of personality, and that are trait personalities, that we are made up of various traits that define who we are, and that if you were to tell someone what those traits were, you'd have a pretty good picture or a pretty good idea of what a person was like. So we'll get into some of that. We'll talk a little bit about neuroscience, some biological basis for personality. We do inherit genes from our parents that give us certain temperaments and traits that is very heritable. So we'll discuss a little bit of that. And then the latter part of the chapter gets into how do we measure personality? How do we use things like interviews, different types of behavioral and self-assessments, and personality inventories to try to measure someone's personality and understand it. So that's sort of where the end portion of the chapter will go. Now, here's your lecture PowerPoint. And again, I just want to reiterate, someone asked about this last week. These lecture slides are interactive, so if you click into them, it's going to open up into PowerPoint, and what you want to do is just go to presenter mode. If you watch the PowerPoint in presenter mode, you can click through each slide, and you're going to be able to watch the videos that are embedded in there and be able to, so basically you'll be able to watch the whole lecture with the embedded videos, which are really helpful. The videos are also in the reading, so if you're doing the reading in the ebook and you're stopping in there and you're taking a look at those videos as you read, that's going to be super helpful. But I don't think they're all the same. There might be some different ones in there, so it really is beneficial to take a look at those. The only two extra videos that I posted this week are this Rorschach and Freudian crash course psych video. So this is all about the Freudian perspective, theory on personality, and how to assess personality using projective testing like the Rorschach ink block test. And I love how this guy's face is a Rorschach ink blot. These crash course videos are great because they really help encapsulate everything. And I'd even recommend watching these before you do the reading. Then read and then watch again, because the first time you watch them, it's kind of a lot. You're not going to pick up everything, but you'll get a good overview. And then when you go through and you read the text, you'll kind of remember some of that you saw. It'll be helpful to kind of trigger some of what you've already seen. And then when you watch it again, after doing the reading, there's going to be more that makes sense, and you're going to pick up on stuff you didn't pick up on that first time through. So that would be my suggestion if you really want to retain the information and know it well. And these videos are short enough that you can do that. It's not going to require too much time. The second one I put in here is another video on measuring personality. So it's going to walk you through all the various ways in which we can measure personality and assess it. Your discussion for this week is based not only in the chapter 13, but also in the reading Hawk, and I have the wrong number here. The Hawk reading for this week, I believe I changed it up here. Yeah, 7.3. It's called Racing Against Your Heart. That Hawk reading has to do with something called type A personality. Some of you may be familiar with this. You may have heard that already. So it's going to talk about what is type A personality and how does it have to do with our health. There's some strong correlates to health with type A personality. So that's why it's called Racing Against Your Heart, because type A personality is linked to heart disease. It's positively correlated with heart disease. So that's the first part of the discussion. The second part of the discussion actually is kind of fun. You're going to take a Myers-Briggs type personality online assessment. If you click here, it's going to bring you right to website called 16personalities.com, and it's a really quick personality assessment, and it's based in the Myers-Briggs personality scale, which is using some of those more modern perspective on personality for looking at traits. So it basically will break down your personality into different traits, and it will give you kind of like a list when you're done. It'll talk about strengths and weaknesses of your personality. It'll even give you like what careers are best for your personality, what other kind of personalities would you do best with in a relationship. So it's going to break it down into 16 different personality types. You're going to fit into one of those, and it's going to tell you like who you would be best with. It's really uncanny how accurate it is, because the Myers-Briggs is a very valid and reliable personality assessment tool, as you're going to read about in the chapter. Is a very accurate way for assessing personality. It pins a person down very well in what their personality is. So I hope you guys enjoy doing that. I think it'll be fun. Feel free to give it to your roommate or your parents or whoever you're quarantined with. Maybe get to know each other a little better this week, and see if you don't think it's fairly accurate. So that'll be the last part of the discussion, is talking about what personality type you got and what are the strengths and weaknesses. And then you have the quiz on chapter 13 and exam 5, which covers chapters 12 and 13. So that's social psych and personality. And that will wrap up your week. But again, as you're working through this week, if you hit any roadblocks or have any questions, please feel free to email me. Otherwise, have a good week, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy.